Hey guys, thanks all for coming. I know a couple of you know me already, and probably a few of you have come through the ads that I ran to get this bootcamp going. This is actually the first bootcamp I've run for League of Legends. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching, but in terms of group sessions, never really run them. To be honest, Nice's bootcamp that he did maybe I think it was like a month ago, still kind of going. Kind of inspired me to do this, and I thought, well, his had a kind of big price on it, so I thought let's do a free one and see how it goes. So this bootcamp, it's the first one, obviously, but I'm going to try and provide a lot of value and make it very solo queue strategy focused and more for players who are in like the iron to diamond region. So while a lot of the principles and stuff will go over is like relevant for masters and above, this is kind of more building foundations and for players who are kind of like that 99% of players who are in between or in diamond to iron. So who am I and what is Lolcoach Academy? So basically I'm just a League of Legends solo queue player who used to help his mates out, and then realized I had a little bit of a knack for it. So I started a website called lolcoach.academy, and for the first, I think, 500 hours of coaching, I did everything for free. So if someone wanted a game review, if someone wanted a profile review, I was more than happy to give the advice out for free because I was like, well, I've got no experience, so why would I charge money for my advice? So I decided, well, for the first 500 hours of coaching, I'm going to do everything for free because I don't know how much I should value myself and why should players have to pay for someone who hasn't done coaching before. So that was kind of my mentality, and it worked out really well because I developed a lot of good principles, met a lot of good people, and developed some really nice coaching habits. So as I said earlier, it's basically I focus on low elo. So well, when low elo, that's relative, but I look at it from iron to diamond, that where 99% of players sit. Yes, a lot of us or some of us want to go beyond that, but you can't really focus on anything beyond diamond until you get a lot of foundations and fundamentals correct. Because if you're like a gold player trying to play like a master player, for example, it's just not going to work. It's a completely different game. It's like Sunday league football compared to like the EPL. It's just a completely different game of football. And I know that's a football reference, but it's the same with any sport, any professional sport versus amateur sport. Think of that like masters and like anything below it. Yeah, so I've been doing this for about 5 years now. To be honest, I don't know how many hours, but I did a rough estimation based off how many people I've helped, and how many sessions I've run, and it's come to about around 10,000 or more hours. So yeah, the services I provide quickly before we go into this are profile reviews, VOD reviews, self-paced online courses, statistical tracking, and goal setting. So they're kind of my specialties. I'm very focused on self-improvement, and being better than yesterday is kind of my mentality. You don't have to be perfect, but as long as you're playing better than what you were yesterday, I see that as a win. And as long as you keep doing that, even if your LP goes down, as long as you're improving as an individual day on day, that's a win in my books. And that should also be a win in your books as well. And then, yeah, of course, feel free to invite your friends to the Discord, share the recording, and share the resources given. So at the end of this session, I'll upload a recording to YouTube. I'll share the link, and there's also some spreadsheets that we're going to go through at the end of this session that I will give you all copies of so you can input your own data. And depending on how active we are at the end of the session, we can either go through them together, or I can maybe go through one of yours with someone or something like that. But we'll see when we get to that, depending on how active you guys want to be. Cool. So what is this bootcamp? So just before we get into this actual session, I just thought I'd go through a quick session overview of everything that's taking place throughout this. So the bootcamp, it's going to probably run for a couple of weeks, but it's going to be sporadic. So we might have like 1 or 2 sessions. I think we're going to have 2 sessions this weekend. We might have 2 sessions next weekend, and then 2 sessions the weekend after that. So it could be spread over like 3 weeks or so. Because Casper, who's also helping me out with the support masterclass and the top lane masterclass. I was a little bit busy for the next 2 weeks. So this bootcamp is really for players who are ready to climb and to take responsibility for their rank. So basically every day I deal with solo queue players who blame everything that's happened to them, including their rank, including their ability not to climb, based on people who aren't them. So basically their teammates, their allies, their jungler, their top laner, their feeding bot lane. And while, yes, you're going to get feeding top laners, troll junglers, everyone has to deal with the exact same amount of trolling and feeding that goes on. Like, if you're playing 300 games a season, every single gold 3 player is going to get the same amount of trolls, inters, and feeders that you're going to get. So my mentality is, why focus on the thing that everyone has to deal with and you can't control versus you as an individual and your performance, which is the only thing you can control in the game. It's like trying to it's like being angry or trying to control the weather when you have absolutely no control over it. So why do we focus so much on our ally jungler who never ganks our lane, or our enemy top lane who goes 0-4? Because at the end of the day, we can only do so much to help that person. Yes, we can go gank them, or yes, we can, ward for them or help them at dragon. But at the end of the day, you can only do so much to affect someone else's behavior. So in reality, it all comes back to yourself. As an individual, what can you do to become a better player? Because I guarantee if you focus on yourself and the variables you can control, which is your own improvement, versus the external variables that you have no control over, like your teammates, you're going to have a lot more success if you're always focusing on the things you can change, because you can actually change the outcome. Yeah, so that's my little spiel that I go through basically every day with people. But yeah, so the session overview, there'll be a masterclass for each lane, so top, mid, jungle, and I'll do bot lane together. Actually, I might do support and AD carry separately. Yeah, I'll do those separately. There'll also be like a Q&A session, but I might just have that at the end of every session. So at the end of this session as well, there will be a time for you to ask any questions, basically more around this session on its own, rather than like, hey, I'm hard stuck this, can you give me advice? Because that's probably what the op.gg session is going to be more about. We're going to look at your profiles and actually give you like 2 to 5 minutes of advice for each profile, depending on how many there are. So try and keep the Q&A session more relevant to this session itself and any questions you have as I'm kind of presenting. So just going on that before I move on to the next point is, yeah, if you guys have questions, make sure you like write them down, or you don't have to wait until the end, but feel free to interject if you maybe have a question about something or you think I should clarify, because chances are if you think there needs to be clarification on a point, someone else is also thinking that. So I'm more than happy to stop the session if someone does have a question like that. And then I also just want to say, you don't have to believe everything I say. I want you to create kind of your own understanding of how you want to climb in solo queue, and that's not going to be necessarily what I believe. So there's no real golden rules for climbing. Yes, there's like, small champion pool, one role, don't play more than 2 losses in a row, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you have to play League of Legends the way you want to play. I'm going to tell you how you should play. Everyone's going to tell you how you should play. YouTube videos are going to tell you, Challenger, everyone's going to tell you how to play, but as long as you create a play style and a way to play the game that suits you, you should be really happy with that, and you should just focus on that, because it's going to be really sustainable. If you're trying to play the game in a way that you don't enjoy, or that's really hard, or you're doing things that you just don't like and you're seeing no improvement, it's chances are because you're just not enjoying it and it's not the way you want to play the game. So make sure at the end of the day, listen to all this advice, soak it up, but take the bits of advice that you actually, think will resonate with you and think you can improve on, and, leave the ones that you disagree with or you don't see working for your individual situation. And just on that as well, when focusing on improvement in League of Legends, this is a bit of a sidetrack, but make sure you're just always focusing on one thing at a time. So a lot of players come to me and they give me like all these problems, or I identify like 5 problems for them. Like they've got bad CS, they've got low kill participation, they've got high deaths, and they play like 20 champions in their role. And it's like, well, okay, there's 5 problems there, but what you should really do is just focus on one of those at a time. And there's no real rule for which one you should focus on first. Generally, the 2 rules that I like to use are, if you've got a multiple focus areas or multiple weak areas that you need to improve on as a player, you can either go about the method of picking the one that's annoying you the most. So like, let's say you're averaging 4 CS per minute and you're not very happy with it. Well, maybe you should focus on that because it's clearly like bugging you all the time. The second one is, think of it like, okay, which of these has the highest impact and is the easiest to fix? So if you categorize your problems like on a scale or on a spectrum of highest impact and lowest energy to fix or quickest time to improve, you can then set yourself a standoff. Okay, I'm going to go for the quickest to improve and highest impact, and then go down the line slowly. So for example, fixing your CS per minute is really high impact and is really easy to do. Once you start focusing on CS, you can generally increase your CS per minute by 1 to 2 within your first week of actually focusing on it. You can watch a couple of videos, but really if you're just mentally focusing on last hitting and being better with your CS per minute, you can generally increase it by 1 to 2. Whereas like if you're then trying to also go, I need to position better in team fights, well, that's like a much more niche problem that's going to require a lot more work. And it's not necessarily as impactful as your CS per minute, because generally everyone can kind of position in team fights, but there's so many different variables going on in a team fight that it's going to take you very long to learn how to position correctly versus how to improve your CS per minute. And then the last session is going to be how to climb in solo queue, which is this session a day. So basically setting yourself up for success and building yourself a strategy that works for you. So at the end of this session, I want you guys all to walk away with an idea in your head of how you want to climb League of Legends. I ideally want you to write it down as I'm going through the examples that we'll go through in a bit. So I'll share the document with you guys. And then ideally you go through it with me as I'm going through it so that you can, by the end of this session, have built your very own solo queue climbing strategy that works for you. So whatever your goal rank is, whatever you want to climb to, what champions you want to play, we've built it out together. And then the final session, like I said, is the op.gg reviews, where I'll basically be doing probably like a 2 to 5 minute review of each submission in the op.gg channel. Cool. So philosophy, I usually like to start strategy sessions with philosophy because I've found over the 5 years of coaching, most players, about like 70 to 80% of players come to me and the first thing they say is like, I'm hard stuck because of my teammates, or I'm hard stuck because of this or that. And generally, no one ever comes to me and says, I'm hard stuck because I'm a bad player, or I'm in gold 3 because I'm a gold 3 player and I want to play like a plat player. A lot of people, I don't know if it's ego or if it's people not wanting to admit it, or maybe they honestly don't believe it, but 99, like I would say 95% of players deserve to be in the rank, actually higher. I would say about 98% of players deserve to be in the rank they are right now. Whatever you've done in the past in your solo queue is basically all on you. Yes, you'll get the bad games. Yes, you'll get the trolls and stuff, but everyone is also dealing with that. So it doesn't mean that just because you're gold 3, you think you're platinum, you should be platinum. If you think you're platinum, you need to get to platinum to actually prove it. You can't just be like, oh, I'm gold 3, but I'm going to be hard stuck here forever because of gold 3 players. You can't just put yourself on a pedestal higher than the rank you're in if you've never actually been higher, or if you've never actually played at a higher level, because it just doesn't make sense. Because how do you know you're a better player? And if you can't actually climb out of that rank, well, it technically means you're not a better player than them. So while it might be upsetting for some people and you might disagree, I honestly think you should behave as a player as your rank. So if you're a gold 3 player, believe you're a gold 3 player and then prove yourself wrong. If you believe you're a plat player or you think you're a plat player, prove yourself wrong. Get out of gold 3, get into gold 2, climb into gold 1, win your plat promos and get into platinum. But if you're just sitting there going, I'm a gold 3 player, but I should be in platinum, that's not helping. That's not helping you. It's making you develop a really unhealthy relationship with League of Legends, where you're going into every game going, I'm a plat player. Why am I playing with these gold 3 shitters? And then you start rage typing because your jungler didn't play, the platinum level standard that you thought in your head was the correct play. And regardless if you're right or wrong, you just need to play in the rank you're at. And yes, you can be like, okay, I'm gold, but I want to kind of measure myself against plat standards. So let's say you use the Mobalytics app, which gives you like CS per minute, kill participation, gold per minute, and it's, average gold level and you're in gold. Yeah, you can hold yourself to platinum standards. I'd never suggest going too high. So like if you're a gold player, don't hold yourself to diamond standards in gold because the game is slightly different. But if you're a gold player and you're holding yourself to platinum standards in terms of like statistics and stuff, that's fine. But make sure you're not over relying on statistics and using them as the sole determinant for success, because you can sometimes risk getting in a bit of trouble there. Cool. So yeah, this is the first one, which I've just basically harped on about, is focus on yourself and not others. At the end of the day, this is like a life lesson as well that maybe, I don't know, I feel like a lot of League of Legends players struggle to deal with in the game, so maybe they also struggle with it in life. It's just like, focus on the thing you can change and just worry about yourself. Like everyone else is worrying about themselves. Just let them deal with their own shit. Let them deal with their problems. The less you focus on it, the less it like affects you and hurts you negatively. Yes, you can go help your bad jungler. Yes, you can go help your top laner who's 0-2 and struggling. Or yes, you can roam bot lane to try and extend your lead. Let's say, sorry, I keep using mid lane as an example, but let's say you're a mid laner who's 3-0 at 10 minutes. It's like, sure, I can keep shit stomping my my mid lane opponent, but it's actually smarter to try and extend that lead. So yeah, maybe I should go top because I'm 3-0 and help out the 0-2 top laner. Or yeah, I should go bot and help those guys out. So while it's good to focus on yourself, make sure when you are ahead, you try and help others. So the focus on yourself, not others, is more when things are going wrong, you need to focus on yourself. When things start going like negatively or start falling off, or things start going the way you don't want them to go in solo queue, make sure you start focusing on yourself and what you can do as an individual to get you and your team out of that situation. Almost like become the leader or the captain of the team. You don't have to, so I don't type. So when I say become the captain or the leader, it doesn't mean start typing to them saying, hey, just let me 1v9 you shitters. I'm going to fucking carry this. That's not what I want you to say. Or don't be like, top lane, you're fucking trash, just follow me. That's not what I mean by leadership. I more mean by like taking initiative, being at the dragon first, clearing vision, setting up objectives for success, helping out your teammates, all that kind of shit, where it's leadership by example and by your actions and your initiative. Because if you think you're the best player, if you think you're a plat player in your gold 3, well then prove it to the game. To start taking leadership, commanding the game, and dictating how your team plays the macro, and then you can win the game. Yes, it's not going to happen every time, but if you focus on yourself more than others, I guarantee you're going to improve. So the next point is improvement over wins. A lot of us, we get really stuck in wins, how many wins we have, because it's very much linked to our LP. If you go on a 3-win streak, it feels really good because it's like, hey, I've just gained like 60 LP or whatever like that in a day. Wow, that was so easy. But the problem with wins is the average League of Legends player literally only wins 50% of their games. The average challenger player wins about 54 to 56% of their games. So for the average player, it means you're going to lose 1 in 2 games. For the average challenger player, you're losing like 46 to 44% of your games. Now, when you think about that, there's no real other game like that, unless you're like a really bad player. So like, if you play basketball, Socially, chances are you're probably not going to win 50, lose 50. I mean, you could, but you're probably going to do better than that. That's actually a really bad example. But the idea is, or the philosophy is that like you guys need to be really comfortable with losing and just accept that it's a natural part of the game. No one goes through the game without any losses. No one goes through the game without any losses that weren't their fault. There are going to be tons of games in your season, in your ranked games, where you lost not because of you. And that's okay because it happens to everyone. What you got to do is just not worry about that and actually focus on what could you have done differently to maybe change the outcome. Even if it was a doomed game, you may as well try and learn something from it. Like if your team's holding you hostage, and they're refusing to FF. Just try and learn something from the game. Try and go for a flashy play. If you're gonna lose it anyway, you may as well go for something that you've never tried before, or do something crazy. Because if you truly believe you're losing and you've got two trolling teammates, you may as well do something with the game rather than just get in your head, get angry, and start rage typing at them. So this is the next one. Solo queue, you'll never be perfect. It's all about just minimizing your mistakes. You're never going to have the perfect CS per minute. Do not aim for like 10 CS per minute. Do not aim for like 10-0, perfect KDA every game, because it's just not going to happen, and you're going to play the game in a way that's not beneficial for winning and climbing and improvement if you're over focusing on perfection. The biggest philosophy that I said earlier is that just focus on being better than yesterday. You're never going to be perfect, but as long as you're better than what you were yesterday, that is a really good goal. If you're always just constantly comparing yourself versus your previous self, so who you were yesterday to who you are today, as long as that's your goal of, I just need to be better than who I was yesterday, in life and in League of Legends, that's going to work for you every time. As long as you're focusing on yourself and you're not comparing yourself, oh, why can't I be like Faker? No, just focus on who you were yesterday and who you are today. What have you done today in your solo queue games? Even if you lost 3 games and you had 2 trolls in all 3 of those games, what did you do today that has made you better than yesterday? Maybe you raged less. Maybe it's simple as that. Maybe you muted chat and just didn't say anything. Or maybe you had a trolling jungler who fed your lane, and instead of feeding your lane also, you actually turtled and managed to reduce your death count, or something like that. There's heaps of examples of this, and it's super easy to implement, and it's really realistic. So the LS delusion, I quickly go into this because I like LS and I like his content, and I think there's a lot of there's not so many people like LS and his content, but what you need to understand is that when people are talking about League of Legends in a 5v5 professional environment, so like LS talks almost completely about League of Legends in professional top standard League of Legends. So if you're watching LS streams where he commentates NALCS, LCK, LEC, whatever, if you watch him and you take his advice as gospel for your gold game or your platinum game or your diamond game or your bronze game, you're going to find this massive disconnect, and you're going to get really angry at yourself because you're going to be trying to play challenger level gameplay in an iron game or in a gold game, and it's just not going to translate. So the LS delusion, it sounds kind of negative, but basically it just means a lot of challenger players, a lot of people who are always playing in high elo don't actually know what it's like to play in low elo, and they don't understand that in your gold game, in your plat game, in your diamond game, in your silver game, you're going to get these really shitty events that happen that don't happen as much in challenger, and so they kind of just forget about it. So it comes back to like never focusing on perfection, but also just being like realistic about who you get your advice from. So if you're always getting advice from pro players and challenger solo queue one tricks, just understand that yes, they're going to have a lot of good advice, but they're also looking at the game through the lens of a challenger player, not a gold 3 player trying to get to platinum. They're a gold 3 player who's gotten to challenger. So their lens of the game is very different. So as long as when you're watching people's content, you understand what their perspective is versus what your perspective is, understand their reality versus your reality, you can then digest their content and take away what you want from it a lot easier. And then the final one is the League of Legends is a computer game. If you don't enjoy the process and the game, you're doing something wrong. So unless and this is literally for 0.0001% of players, unless you're on the road to become like an esports professional or like a team, be in a team, you need to really just enjoy the process in the game of this. Unless you've got that goal of becoming a pro player and you've got like a path set out to it. You've got a coach, you've got the connections, the network, the industry. It's going to be really hard for you to go down that path and enjoy the process. It's very hard to go down that path and enjoy the game. A lot of players who are in the pro scene right now got lucky, or the older solo queue players, professional players got lucky with the process because it wasn't very mature. But right now, the road to being a professional esports player in a team is a very difficult road. And you need to make sure that you're going to have to make a lot of sacrifices if that's your goal. So I come back to it, 99.999% of us are just going to have to enjoy the game and enjoy the process. If your process for climbing isn't enjoyable, so if you're playing champions you hate, if you're playing a role you despise, if you're doing things you don't like doing, you need to process that, digest it, and go, okay, let's make a compromise. I'm a gold player wanting to get to diamond, but right now my champion pool, I'm playing mid lane assassins, Zed, Talon, and Kiana. But I really don't enjoy these champs. I actually prefer like Kassadin, Cassiopeia, and Vlad. It's like, okay, and in your head you're going, well, I believe that assassins are the key to climbing, and that's great. But if you're not enjoying that, you should switch to the other champion pool. Because if you enjoy what you're doing, you're going to do better at it. There's been countless studies on this, and it works in every single other aspect of life. So why wouldn't it work in League of Legends? It works in every aspect of competitive games and sport. So why wouldn't it work in League of Legends? You just need to make sure you enjoy your process of getting to your goal. So if you're like sweating it out, like 10 games a day, got yourself on some crazy schedule that you don't enjoy, and you're not finding passion, or you're starting to lose interest in the game, you're doing something wrong. League of Legends shouldn't feel like a grind, a chore, or something like that's super depressing and you almost don't look forward to it, or it gives you anxiety. That's not how League of Legends should be played. It should be played how you want to play, based on what goal you want to get, and making sure both of those are aligned. So a lot of people, for example, have a goal of, I want to get to diamond, and they're currently silver. They play 100 champions a season and they have a 48% win rate. So the way they're playing right now, the way they play the game and they enjoy the game right now isn't aligned to their goal of getting to diamond. So they then got to rethink about their goal and the way they play League of Legends and come up with a compromise. What can they sacrifice to have a bit less fun, but to climb a little bit higher? And then you kind of got to take away from a little bit of enjoyment to climb a little bit higher. And you don't always necessarily have to take away enjoyment to climb higher. Sometimes as you're climbing, you actually start to enjoy the game more because you start winning more, you start playing better, you start having better teammates on average, and you actually start enjoying the process a lot more. So just make sure that you're, basically in summary, the way you play the game right now is aligned to your goal. So make sure you're not like that silver player who plays 120 champions a season, has a 48% win rate, and has the goal of getting to diamond, because it's never going to happen if you're playing the way you are right now. So just make sure that you've got that process of playing the game connected with your goal, and you'll always be fine. So before you even play, setting yourself up for success. Right now, think in your head, what's your actual goal, and be realistic about it. 99% of players that come to me say, I want to get to diamond. And that's fine to have that goal. But let me quickly break down how hard getting into diamond is. I'm not saying it's impossible, and I'm not saying you can't do it from being a silver player or a bronze player or an iron player, but just understand the math behind it so that you create a realistic understanding of diamond. So right now in every region, diamond is about the top 1 to 2% of the region. Now, you might go, okay, well, that's every 1 or 2 in 100 players will get to diamond this season. You can think of it like that, but there's also the problem of once you get to diamond as a player, 99%, I would say at least 90% of players who aren't boosted, who get to diamond, stay in diamond or higher for the rest of their League of Legends career, or, the rest of their time playing the game. So when you look at it like that, you're now working with a much smaller window of, it's not actually 1 or 2 people in 100. It's more like 1 to 2 people in 1,000, because once people actually get to diamond, they stay there forever, which means there's less spots to actually get into diamond. That's not exactly how the solo queue system works. Yes, ranks can fluctuate, and yes, more people can get into diamond than the previous year. But if you're looking at the game of if the player base stayed the exact same number and 90% of players who are diamond stay diamond forever, you've now only got a 10% window of that 1 to 2% of players who make it to diamond. You've now only got a 0.1% chance of getting to diamond. I'm not very good at math and I don't explain that very well, but basically it's just very hard to get to diamond, and it's not impossible, but what you have to do is do what players aren't willing to do. If you're doing what everyone else isn't willing to do, you're going to climb higher than them. So if you're putting in more work than the average gold player is putting in, you're eventually going to climb out of gold. If you're putting in more work than the plat player who, plays 20 champions a season, averages a 51% win rate, and plays 3 roles, you're going to climb higher than them. If you're constantly, yes, being better than what you were yesterday, but also going, what can I do that other gold players aren't willing to do? Can I play 1 more game a day? Can I review an extra 20 minutes of my gameplay a week? Can I look at getting a coach? Can I watch more educational videos? It doesn't all have to be paid coaching. There's a lot of good free coaching resources, and keeping yourself to a goal or a schedule that you can do, because I guarantee you the average gold player hasn't got a schedule. The average gold player hasn't set themselves a champion pool that they're going to stick to for the rest of the season. The average plat player probably hasn't even done it. Even diamond players don't have champion pools specified. So if you start doing these things that everyone knows are successful, and you start setting up goals and tracking yourself, and start doing the things other players don't want to do, you're going to become better. So the next one is, the first one, what's your goal? Where do you want to get to? Then the second one is, why do you play the game? Do you play it for enjoyment? Do you want to get a career out of it? Do you want to beat your friends? Do you just want to play with your friends? Do you want to become an elo booster? I don't know what your goal is. It doesn't really matter, as long as you understand what your goal is and why you play, and you align those two together. So a lot of people, going back to my point, is a lot of people have this goal, but then the way they play the game isn't aligned to achieving that goal. It's like wanting to look like, what's a good example? Like The Rock, who's this massive guy in the gym, and then you go to the gym 1 day a week and you're like, my goal is to look like The Rock or Arnold Schwarzenegger or something like that. And you go, well, hang on, if you're just going to the gym once a week, you're never going to get to that guy's level. He works out for 4 to 6 hours a day, and you're only working out once a week. How are you ever going to get to that goal? So make sure your goal is aligned to why you play, because maybe your schedule, you can only play 1 game a day. Maybe you're just so busy, you have work, you have uni, you have a girlfriend, or you have family that you want to spend time with, or you have other games you want to play, and League of Legends is just like a game you like to play once or twice. You got to make sure that that's aligned to your goal. So the other one that I've touched upon is just play 1 role. This has been proven time and time again If you just stick to one role, you are going to climb higher over the season. If you just play one role for a whole season, you are going to become such a better player. A lot of people get stuck on this thing of like, oh, I started mid lane, but then I started getting really bad junglers. So I switched to jungle because I didn't want to have bad junglers anymore. But they don't even know the role. And now they go, oh, I switched to jungle. Now I'm getting bad mid laners. It's like, just stick to one role. It doesn't matter which one it is. Currently, I think in EU West, like Bard, like there's a Bard one trick who's like ranked number 1 or 2. Every role you can climb in, support, jungle, top, mid, AD carry, every single role you can climb to challenger in. You can be rank 1 in. Every region has competing players who are in every role vying for the top position in their ladder. So if you're one of those players who are going, I don't know what role to play because I want to play jungle and carry the team, but I like playing mid lane, but top lane is actually where I learnt the game and I really enjoy it. Just make a choice. It doesn't matter really which one it is. I would suggest if you're in doubt, just go with the one you enjoy the most because I guarantee you're going to be able to improve the most on it. So just pick the one role and stick to it for the whole season. If you're unsure, if you're like, oh, fuck, I want to change roles halfway through the season or 2 months into your playstyle, that's fine. But what I would recommend if you're wanting to do that is have a second account. So this comes back to having one account, which is a new concept, but some of you have probably heard me say it before. Have one account for climbing and one account for learning. So your one account that's for climbing is for hitting your goal. It's that playing that one role, one tricking that one champion that you have a 60% win rate on, and just spamming games on it. Then you have your other account, which is for learning. So let's say you keep getting shit junglers and you're a top laner, and you're like, I want to learn jungle because my junglers are always shit. Great. You can do that, but do not do it on your account that's for climbing. Leave that account as your top lane until you become a better jungler, until you start getting a 60% win rate on your jungle, and then go, okay, I now know I'm a good enough jungler. I'm going to transfer my climbing account to being a jungle only account. And that's how you should look at switching roles if you want to. Don't look at switching roles as a weekly thing or a daily thing where you're like, oh, today I want to play top lane. Oh, tomorrow I'm going to play jungle. Unless that's why or how you want to play the game. If you want to learn 3 roles at once, that's fine. But if you're wanting to become diamond and you're a gold player right now and every day or every week or every month you're switching the role you play, it's going to be very hard for you to climb doing that process. So just understand if you're not playing one role, it's going to take longer for you to climb on average. And it's also going to be a little bit more frustrating and you're not going to improve as quickly. The next one is one trick or small champion pool. Time and time again, it's been proven that one tricking is the easiest way to climb in the game. The problem with one tricking is that not everyone wants to just play one champion. So the compromise for this, again, is you have 2 accounts. You have one account for climbing and you have one account for trying new champions, for playing new things, for playing when you're tilted, for trying out, new roles. The second one is if you don't want a one trick, but you want to kind of become, let's say you want to become a pro player, so you need to learn a variety of champions, or you've got an amateur team that you play for and you need to learn a set pool of champions. That's great, but keep it to a small champion pool at a time. So I would say you should keep the same champion pool for at least 3 months. It doesn't matter if your champion gets nerfed. Right now, for example, Irelia got nerfed in the last patch. She is still playable. She is still really good. Every one trick Irelia isn't giving up on that champion because of the most recent nerf. I guarantee you, they're all going to keep playing that champion, and they're going to have a very similar win rate to what they had before the nerf. Because they're one tricks, they have mastery over the champion, and regardless of buffs and nerfs, they can play the champion at a higher level than the rank they're in, and therefore they're going to win games. So, yes, you can go to sites like u.gg to build your champion pool, and you choose the top 3% highest win rate champions there as your champion pool. That's fine, but just understand that you should stick to those champions for at least 3 months to actually get mastery over them. Don't keep changing your champion pool based on the meta unless you have like 10 years of game experience and you've played all those champions for like 200, 300 plus games. If you're like, if this is your first season playing, if this is your second season, third season, fourth season, chances are you haven't really played every champion yet. So if you're constantly changing your champion pool, it's going to become a problem for climbing. And make sure you don't change your champion pool based on the meta straight away. Make sure you actually test the champion post nerf. If you're scared about the champion being too weak, again, go to your second account and play it on there. Test it out. Test out the Aurelia that just got nerfed. See how it feels playing it. And if you are uncomfortable with playing it on your main, that's fine. You can put it on the bench and you just play your other champions. But make sure you've got a process that works for you. Again, it comes back to why you play and what's your goal. If you just want to play 10 champions because you're trying to develop a wider champion pool for your amateur esports team, that's fine. But don't get upset when you start losing games because you're trying to learn 10 champions at once. Just understand that, okay, if you're going to try and learn 10 champions so that your competitive gameplay for your team, you can't get banned out when they do pick and ban phase and they look at your op.gg, that's fine. But just make sure that you understand that, yes, I'm sacrificing my solo queue climbing to develop a better champion pool. Not, oh, I'm constantly changing champions because I feel like it. And then this is like the golden rule that a lot of challenger players recommend. Play in blocks of 3 games and never more than 2 losses in a row. This is a really good way to prevent tilt, to stop tilt streaks, to prevent loss streaks, and just overall good mental health. If you play in blocks of 3 games and you never play more than 2 losses in a row, it's a really good way to play League of Legends, and you're going to lose, on average, about like 200 LP less each season, 200 to 300 LP less each season if you use this strategy and never play more than 2 losses in a row for that day or for that block of games. So you could play 6 games in a day, right? But you need to split them up with an activity. So let's say you currently play 6 games a day all in one go or something like that, or you don't really have a schedule. What I'd suggest is playing 3 in the morning, 3 at night, or, 3 in the afternoon, 3 at night, and just have a break between, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's getting some food, whether it's going to the gym, walking your dog, talking to someone, playing another game. Do something that takes you away from League of Legends for at least 20 to 30 minutes, ideally an hour to 2 hours, and then come back to the game. And I guarantee you that's going to help your mentality, it's going to reduce tilt, and it's going to improve your win rate by probably like 1 to 4% over an entire season. And then this is the one that I've been talking about a lot. Every player who's serious about climbing in League of Legends should have 1 account for climbing and 1 account for learning. You should have 1 account where you're playing your best champion. Every op.gg review I do, 90% of players have this one champion where they have like a 55% or higher win rate on them, yet they only play them for like 20% of their games. And I go, why aren't you playing this champion? And they're like, oh, well, I have fun on it, but I want to learn new champions. And I go, well, okay, that's fine. Like, everyone wants to do that. I want to do that personally, and a lot of other players want to do that. But what you got to understand is, do not play those other champions that you're trying to learn on your highest rank account, because you're just going to sabotage it and get hard stuck. Instead, have a second account where you're constantly learning new things, where you're playing when you're tilted. It's almost like, think of it like a throwaway account where you don't really care about your rank too much. You more care about learning something new, preventing tilt on your main account, or trying a new role, or doing something differently, basically. That's how you should think of it. And if you split your accounts like that, again, you're going to, on average, get like an increase of like 1 to 4% win rate over a season, which if you're like at a 48% win rate, 49% win rate, 50% win rate, if you can get your win rate like to 54 or to 55%, you're going to climb very consistently. If you can average a 55% win rate over a season for the whole season, you're going to do really, really well. And that doesn't mean you average a 40% win rate in the first half of the season and then a 60% win rate in the second half of the season. No, that means when you start the season or when you start a new account, you build a strategy before you play solo queue on that game, on that account and you stick to it. And again, this comes back to, well, if you don't want to play the game like that, again, that's fine. But just understand that your improvement is probably going to be slower than a person who applies that strategy to playing League of Legends. So again, all my advice I'm saying, you don't have to agree with, or you can even think like I'm an idiot and I'm dumb and it's not realistic. That's fine. Just take the bits that you agree with and that you think are realistic for your individual situation and apply it to your game. I think everyone, to be honest, can have one account for climbing and one account for learning. You literally sacrifice nothing with this strategy and you gain everything with it. So that's my last thing I'm going to say on that. Cool. And then the last one is, it's not all about you. When you're the player who's constantly pinging your jungler for ganks or to help you, or like, why doesn't my support roam? You got to understand that they're not thinking about the game the way you are. Every player in solo queue is thinking about the game differently. Yes, the higher rank you get, the more people are aligned to what the correct play is. For example, if you watch like a challenger game, the play style is very predictable. They'll win a team fight. They'll go to Baron. They'll recall. There's a lot less mistakes happening in their sequences of events because everyone's more on the same page. But Diamond and below, no one is on the same page. Everyone is thinking of different things. Sometimes two of you will think, I need to go to Baron. Three of you will go, I need to go to Dragon. If you're that one person who's going to, if you're one of the two people who are going to Baron, you should instead just go to Dragon and then make four of you going to Dragon versus one of you going to Baron. You're going to have a much higher success chance of getting that Dragon with four of you than two of you trying to get Baron. So just think about the game of, while you might in your head think this is the correct play, understand your thought of the correct play in the context of the game you're playing right now. So yes, in the LS vacuum of the LCK finals, it's like your idea in your head, that is the correct play. But in the reality of the Gold 3 game you're playing right now, this play is correct because your team wants to do it. So if you think Baron's the right call, but you're the only one going there, it's not the right call anymore because your team wants to do something else. So this again comes back to, how do you want to learn and how do you want to play the game? Do you want to do the fundamentally correct play every time and fuck up your team? So your team, four of you go to Dragon and you go to Baron. It's like, okay, maybe Baron was the right call. In a professional game, everyone would have gone to Baron, or in a challenger game, everyone would have gone to Baron. But now you're actually sabotaging that game because you think this is the correct play and you're just being stubborn. So again, making sure it aligns back to your goals, but understand that the game isn't all about you. Your jungler isn't thinking, oh, my mid lane is 0-2. If only he gets a gank, he could carry the game. But that's what you're thinking in your head. Like, I'm 0-2. If only I could get a gank, I can carry the game. Your jungler is not thinking that right now. So don't expect him to gank your lane after you've died twice in a 1v1. Or yes, you might have got camped by the enemy jungler, but at least your jungler is doing something else. Or maybe they're not. Maybe they're a completely useless jungler, but that's fine. You know, that you just have to deal with that and play through it because you're going to get those games regardless. Cool. So strategy. When you're setting up your goals, why you want to play and building a strategy, you got to ask yourself, how badly do you want it? How badly do you want Diamond? Are you willing to do what everyone else isn't wanting to do? Are you going to play for an extra hour a day? Are you going to review your gameplay for an extra 2 hours a week? Are you going to track your statistics month on month and be consistent about it? Are you going to one-trick a champion for a whole season? Are you going to play a small champion pool for 6 months? Are you going to learn a new role and then climb with it? You got to understand, how badly do you want it? Your goals need to match your dedication to improvement. So this is something I've been saying this whole session on. If your goal doesn't match how you play the game right now and how much you're willing to commit to the game, you're going to set yourself up for failure. You're always going to be unhappy. You're always going to be angry, and you're always going to tilt. Because if you're not putting in the effort for improvement, you're not going to get the results you want, and you're going to start blaming other things. You're going to start blaming your teammates. You're going to start blaming Riot's matchmaking system. You're going to start blaming everything but yourself, which is a real big problem. Consistency. So if you stick to everything I've said, but you only do it for a month, great. You might get some results in that first month, but then if you just go back to your bad habits that you've developed over the last 2 years, you're gonna lose all that progress and you're just gonna go back to square one. So make sure that whatever strategy you have in place, it's sustainable. Make sure that your strategy isn't playing 12 hours a day, reviewing 10 hours of content a week, um, and taking 2 hours a month to review to set up statistical tracking. Maybe that's unrealistic for your position or for your reality. Maybe you've got competing priorities. You play on a sports team. Yes, it's COVID, so most people probably aren't playing on a sports team, but maybe you've got a job, maybe you've got uni, maybe you've got a degree you're studying for, maybe you're still in school, maybe you've got a girlfriend, maybe you've got a family that you want to spend time with or friends you want to hang out with. Make sure that whatever strategy you come up with, you can consistently carry it out across a whole season. So try and plan out your life and think, okay, can I do this for the rest of the season? Tracking. Don't use tracking as your one source for improvement, but I would suggest it should be something every player who's serious about climbing should track their statistics. And Mobalytics and op.gg, and we're going to go through it in a second. Mobalytics and op.gg have every statistic you need, and they're both completely free to track and to make sure you're constantly improving as an individual. And then development, basically everything I've said. So goals. Setting yourself up for success. This is where we get a little bit more practical. So I'm going to put, if anyone is still listening, I'm going to put right now in the Discord chat, I'm going to put a link. So in the chat room, I'm going to put this doc, which you should all be able to open, and make sure you read the instructions. So I'll do it on screen for you guys so you can see how to share it. So right now what you want to do is you want to click File, make a copy for yourself, call it whatever you want. Call it Dylan is really shit at coaching. Cool. Call it whatever you want. Call it something you can remember. And then now you've got access to edit this. So I want you to go to the first spreadsheet here where it's called goals. Now, what I want you to do is see the example in red. I want you to now go through this one at a time for you. And I'm going to do it with my account. I'm going to do it with my diamond account right now, so you guys can see how I'm doing it. I'm just trying to think how to split my screen the best way. Actually, I'm just going to do it. Let's say I have only one screen. So, cool. So it's pretty self-explanatory. You honestly don't have to watch me go through it, but if you're like confused or it doesn't make sense. So right now, what's your current rank? My current rank right now is Diamond 3. What role do I right now play? Well, to be honest, I play 3 roles right now, but because I'm a Diamond 3 player, I want to get to Masters, and I know I have to stick to one role. I'm going to play mid lane. Now, again, make sure these goals you're setting up are for your climbing account. This is not for your learning account as well. This is purely for climbing. If you want to set up goals for your learning account or for your other 7 accounts, because I was just reading the chat and I saw someone has like 8 accounts. I'm the same. I've got like 5 or 6 accounts. If you want to set up goals for each of those accounts, like let's say you want to learn 3 roles at once, you can set up goals. Just go through this process one at a time, go through it. So for my champion pool, I just want to play Rumble, Cass, and Ziggs. Notice how these aren't necessarily meta. These champions are all champions I enjoy playing and I know I have success on. So right now, for example, I've got a 64% win rate on Rumble, a 63% win rate on Ziggs, and I've actually got a 20% win rate on Cassiopeia, as you can see here, but I really enjoy the champion. Oh, can you guys not see my screen?
We can only see the op.gg.
Oh, can you see
Sorry.
my spreadsheet now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry, yeah. Can you still see the spreadsheet now?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Sorry. Yeah. So now I've got my account win rate. So currently my account win rate is 60%. And then you go through your individual champion win rates. So right now my so you'd write Rumble. Right now my Rumble's at a 64. And again, your stats might not look as good as this, but I don't play many games on my account. If you look on my account, this is an account that I only play when I'm feeling really good, when I want to play the game. I have 5 other accounts that I play on when I want to learn something new, when I want to try something different. So this is basically, like, I'll show you one of my other accounts right now while you guys are going through. Because you'll just see, like, what happens when you start learning new champions and start learning new things. I've got, actually, this isn't the best example, but yeah, I've got this gold 3 account which I play with mates on. I play ARAMs on it. I'm learning Lee Sin at the moment. I've got a 50% win rate on him. I'm sure I have some really good games, but I also have some bad games. I've got a 51% win rate in gold 3 because I'm like learning new things. Yes, I play a bit of Rumble and I played a bit of Zim when he's broken, but I'm also like learning Lucian at the same time. And so, like, just think of this as like, this account is for climbing, this account is for learning. And then that's why my statistics look a little bit skewed, because I'm actually taking the strategy that I'm telling you guys to do and I'm actually implementing it in real life, in real time. Cool. So Rumble, Ziggs, I'm currently at a 63% win rate. And you can add as many champions as you want, or you could just have one champion. But what I recommend is literally just having 1 to 3 champions. That is more than enough in your champion pool, unless you're a player who's wanting to go, or who has an amateur esports team, or there's something in your goals that makes you want to play more than 3 champions, or maybe you just like playing 5 champions at any one time. That's fine, but just understand again that your goals are going to take longer to achieve doing that. And then my cast is at a 20%. Cool. So the time period. This is the time period you give yourself. This could be for a completely new account. So let's say you're going to take the one account for climbing, one account for learning philosophy, and you've currently got an account that's 300 games in Plat 3 and it's at a 49% win rate, and you're like, this account's kind of hard stuck. Okay, I'm going to start a new account tomorrow, and that's the account I'm going to use these goals to implement and play out. Because I know that my account that's 600 games in Plat 4 is probably not going to make it to Diamond this season. But if I start a new account with a strategy, playing the champions I have success on, so for example, Cassiope isn't the best, but I'm just putting that in there because some people like to play champions that they're not necessarily good on. And that can be okay as long as you're comfortable with, losing a bit of LP for playing that champion. Yeah. So then, you put your goal, end of season 11 for me. Now, kill participation. You can go to Mobalytics, which you've got a link here, on the right of the screen, of the spreadsheet. And all you have to do is select your region in the search bar. Most of you have probably used Mobalytics before, but for those who haven't, I'll go through it on my screen quickly. I chose my region, OS.
I think Mobalytics is down right now.
Oh, is it?
I've tried searching mine.
Oh shit.
Well, it's not been loading for me.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, this is awkward, but these are all self-explanatory stats anyway. So, kill participation you can find on Mobalytics. You can actually find that on op.gg as well. You can find your overall kill participation if you go to ranked solo queue. So for example, here you could look at your overall kill participation over whatever amount of games. So let's say you want to do your last 26 games, or I've only got 26 games on this account, but you can basically do it as much as possible. It's not the best. Mobalytics is better for it, but if you just want to put in a number right now, and again, kill participation isn't like a golden statistic or anything. None of these are golden statistics on their own, and none of them make much sense on their own. So don't like overanalyze each of these. This is more just setting yourself goals based on your champion pool. So if you want to do a bit of research, you could go to like League of Graphs and look up 3 Rumble Diamond players. Look up their accounts, see what their average kill participation is, and then set yourself that goal. Or look up, you know, let's say you're a jungler, look up 4 Lee Sin, and base it on what your end goal is, or what your current rank is. Base it on, okay, I want to get better at Lee Sin. I'm going to look up 4 Diamond Lees in using League of Graphs. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to find the average of their kill participation, and I'm going to make that my goal average, or my current average. Cool. And then you got KDA, then you got your CS per minute, got your average deaths. Again, this is champion dependent, so some champions are going to die more than others. Just put in your numbers, and it doesn't really matter. Cool. And then you go to gold share. Again, so these ones in dark red will be mobalytics. So gold share is how much gold you're getting per game. Generally, you want to average about like 21 to 22%. But if you're a support, you're probably going to average less. If you're a mid laner, you should be averaging about 23%, for example. So just again, make sure you're setting those realistically and you're using other people's accounts to compare yourself. Damage share, similar. Depends on your champions you're playing. So don't worry, if you play like, I don't know, like Seraphine and Soraka in mid lane, you're probably going to have less damage than someone who plays like Rumble and Cass in lane. So just make sure that these are all your statistics that are currently what you have. Don't worry too much about if they're low or not. Then you got your vision score. You've got your damage dealt per minute, which is again is a mobalytics stat, which you'll see. And then your goal difference at 15, which basically shows, you know, how well you do outside of lane. In lane. Now, regular check-ins, I've just realized, well, I realized when I first made this spreadsheet, a lot of Europeans and Americans don't know what fortnightly means. I think it's only an Australian term. So let's just put this as monthly. Fortnightly is every 2 weeks, but let's say we're putting our regular check-in at a monthly time set. So once everyone's done that, let's say you've done, I'll give, let's just say everyone's done it because it's pretty self-explanatory and mobalytics is down. So we're not going to be able to do all these statistics anyway. We then go to the, yep.
They use the term bi-weekly, I think it is. Or
bi-weekly. Okay, cool. Yeah. Thanks for that, Ginge. So let's just say monthly because maybe you don't want to check in every 2 weeks. Maybe that's too much for your the way you want to play the game. You know, that's too intensive. You just want to chill out a bit, check your stats every month. So that's fine. So these are all your current goals. Remember that. These are your current stats right now playing the game. Then you go to the tracking spreadsheet. So you click the new tab below, and now you've got your overall goal and you've got your monthly goal. So let's say my overall goal, I think I can delete these for the sake of this example. Give me a sec. Yeah, okay, cool. So you can delete all those or you can keep them and just make a copy. So let's say you want to keep this original data. You can either duplicate or just go back to the original master file and compare the stats so you don't lose them. But I'm going to delete them and go, okay, right now my overall goal is 53%. But actually we're going to have to use a different example for this. Let's say my current win rate is, okay, this will be easier. So my overall goal is 53%, my monthly goal, and then my current. So right now, my current win rate is 49%. My monthly goal for this month is I want to get this to 50%. Cool. So right now, my Hecarim win rate is, let's say, 48. My Kha'Zix win rate is 52, and I'm just putting in dummy data here, but you would put in your actual current win rates on your champions in ranked solo queue. Don't do it across normal games. Make sure it's your ranked solo queue for the account that you want to climb on. Then you put KDA. Right now my KDA is 2.7. My CS is 4.5. My average deaths is, let's say 6. My gold share, I'm averaging 19%. Maybe my damage share, I'm actually a really high damage dealer. Cool. Or like, maybe I'm at like 22%. So I'm very close to my goal, but I'm not there yet. And then damage dealt right now, I'm actually at minus 40 damage dealt per minute. Again, these are those mobilytic stats that you guys might not have access to, so you can just watch me as I put in dummy data. And right now my goal difference is negative 150. Now, these overall goals, again, come back to basing it on those other accounts. So let's say you've done your research on like, 1 or 2 Kha'Zix players or like 4 or 5 Kha'Zix players. You've found the average and you've now gone, what's their average win rate? Or what's their average KDA? What's their average CS per minute? You could set all these goals based on that. I wouldn't set these goals based on generic statistics. So like if you're just looking at the average mid laner, but they've got a completely different champion pool to you, don't compare your statistics because a Kassadin is going to have very different statistics than like a Talon mid lane, for example. There's going to be some similarities and some overlap, but make sure you're setting yourself goals that are realistic to your champion. For example, if you're trying to have like a plus 300 gold difference at 15 as a Kassadin mid lane, it can be quite hard to realistically achieve that because you're a scaling champion. Maybe you can, and maybe you do it, and that's great. So then basic go, well, okay, sure, you shouldn't realistically achieve this, but right now I'm doing it. So you can set yourself high expectations, but make sure it's based on the champions you're playing, what other players have as statistics on these champions, and what your goals are. Oh, whoops, I just changed my sensitivity. Cool. And then you put all the same in. So right now, my monthly goal. So let's say my current is 48%. I'm going to put 49% for this month, or maybe even 48.5% because I'm not too sure. Again, these goals don't have to mean you hit them. It's just to give you something to aim for. Because if you're not aiming for anything, if you don't know where you're going, you can just walk anywhere. You can go anywhere in the world. But if you have a goal, you're going to get there, or at least you're going to know or have a direction to walk in. But if you don't have goals, you're just lost. You're just playing the game without any like sense of achievement. So just make sure that these goals, it doesn't really matter what the number is, as long as it's like realistic to what your current win rate is. Cool. I hope this is making sense for everyone. If it's not making sense for someone, please jump in. Because I am kind of rambling a little bit. Yep, KDA. So this month I'm going to go for 2.8. Again, we don't have to hit these goals for this month. It's just to set ourselves up to have goals. 5.8, 19.5. I'm just putting like 0.5 differences. Let's say this one's going to be plus 20. You can't actually put plus signs in the spreadsheet, so just do 20, and then goal difference is going to be minus 75. Cool. So they're my monthly goals, and now 1 month later, I check in with my statistics, and I find out that I didn't hit my goal here. I went backwards here. I fucked up there. This also went badly. And everything went badly, or some things went well. It doesn't really matter. What you want to do at the end of the month is go, okay, what went wrong? So these win rates are all down. But my CS per minute went up. That's good. But my KDA went down. Okay, so maybe I'm over focusing on jungle camps and I'm not focusing on ganking enough, or I'm dying too much. And that's affected my win rates. You don't have to take it as truth, but start looking at this data and going, okay, all my win rates are down, but my KDA is down, but my CS is up to like 6 or something. It might not be as obvious as this, but you're going to start finding that there's going to be some statistics that go backwards, some statistics that go forwards, and some statistics that stay the same. It's not too important what's happening. It's more important how you're looking at them and that you're checking in on them and that you're aware of them. And then month on month, you should just be tracking these. And this is all before you've actually set up improvement strategies other than what we've gone through in this session so far. Cool. So going back, does anyone have any questions on those first two spreadsheets before I continue? Cool. Okay. I'll take the silence as a no. That's good. I wasn't sure if that was going to make sense for everyone. I usually do these statistics in game. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, Professor, Mobalytics, they have all these statistics. The difference between this spreadsheet is you're being active about it. So it's like if you read something versus if you write something down, or if you read something versus teaching it. So let's say you're trying to learn I don't know. Let's say you're trying to learn physics. And you're just constantly like reading it, and maybe you learn very well by reading and absorbing information, but generally someone who writes down the physics rules or actually has to teach it to somebody else, they're going to absorb the stats a lot better, and they're going to like live and breathe the statistics a bit more. So yeah, we've got these Mobalytic and Professor that show us our stats, but if they can track them monthly, that's great as well. What the important thing about this spreadsheet is it's all about tracking yourself. So across a whole season, you can see whether you're going up or down in progress, and month on month, whether you're going up or down. So if Professor does that, that's awesome. The reason I built this spreadsheet was because I couldn't find a tool that could realistically do this for me, and I could compare myself month on month. So that's why I do it like that. Yep, so cool. I forgot to go into these. Make sure all your goals are realistic and consistent. Identity and mindset. So this is coming back to the philosophy I was talking about a little bit earlier. Who do you want to be when you play League of Legends? So do you want to be the player that tilts every time they don't get a gank? Or do you want to be the player that can win their lane regardless of whether their jungler ganks or not? Yes, in a perfect world, we're not going to be able to win our lane every time without a jungler ganking us and stuff like that. But you need to build who you want to be based on what your goal is. Oh, that's cool. You can switch out the stats to pro players. Sorry, I'm reading the chat room at the same time. Yeah, so who do you want to be when you play League of Legends? You don't have to say, I want to play like Faker. That's fine. Make sure you're just building yourself an identity that works for you. Maybe you're always going to rage a little bit and you're okay with flaming. I generally suggest never flame at all, but maybe, you like to flame or something. It's not productive at all, and I don't recommend it, and I don't encourage it, but for some reason, maybe that's who you want to be when you play League of Legends. You want to be someone who rages at your teammates when they do bad things because you think that's going to help the game. So again, we're going to go through a spreadsheet here. So this is all just theory, and then we're going to apply it. So current self versus future self. This is all about who you were yesterday versus who you are today versus who you're going to be tomorrow. So the importance of setting up goals and this philosophy that I've been building is you need to understand who you were yesterday, you need to understand who you are today, and you need to understand who you're going to be or want to be tomorrow. And as long as you know those three identities, you're always going to be fine. You're always going to improve because you're then going to be able to set yourself goals. Oh, cool. So we'll go back to the tracker. We'll go to the identity spreadsheet. So if you guys are still following, again, I've got all the examples written out. So current identity. I get distracted by chat, often autopilot, and react to plays rather than proactively set them up. So these are all examples, and then I went again to put your own examples. You can do them right now, you can do them a little bit later, or you can do them whenever. I would suggest doing them now because we're going through it, but it's up to you. You can just absorb and then do it later, or maybe you don't even think this is useful and you're not going to do it. That's fine. So I've just put examples, and you don't have to have, I've got like 8 examples here. You may only have 3 for now, and that's fine. And you can keep adding as you find stuff or as you discover things about yourself. But for example, my current identity is I get distracted by chat, I often autopilot, and I react to plays rather than proactively setting them up. My future identity. So this is the goal I personally want to achieve. I want to be the most focused player on my team. autopiloting chat and macros. So I never want to autopilot. I have chat muted in system settings, and I'm always the first one at Dragon, or I'm always the first one to roam, or I'm always the first one to get to Baron, or I'm always the first one to help my top laner out. So then, and these keep going. I currently miss a lot of CS during laning phase, and maybe you don't know why you're doing it. So maybe it's just I currently miss a lot of CS during laning phase, and you don't actually know why you're losing the CS. That's fine. Just put in your identity. I want to maximize my CS during laning phase, and then figure out after why you're missing CS. So the current identity, future identity, you don't need to know why your current identity isn't your future identity. All you need to understand is that there's a gap and you need to fix it. So make sure everything you're writing in your current identity examples are gaps that you want to fix, that you want to improve upon because you feel like they're affecting you. You don't have to know exactly how to fix them yet. You just need to understand that there's a problem, because humans have this amazing thing, and it's why we've, become this fucking dominant species on the earth and destroyed everything, is because once we have a problem, we just set ourselves on fixing it. It's like this insane ability that humans have. Like some of us are dumb. Yeah, some of us are stupid. Yeah, some of us AFK at 10 minutes. But humans have this inbuilt ability of, if we've got a problem, we almost always can find a solution to fix it. In a very general and macro sense. So that's why this current identity, future identity is perfect. And also, if you don't know what you're doing wrong, that's fine, because there are so many educational resources out there. If you're bad at CS, you could watch 1 to 10 videos on YouTube about how to CS, and I guarantee you're going to figure out what you're doing wrong. The alternative is, let's say you don't like YouTube videos. You could watch 10 gameplay replays of your laning phase, and I guarantee you're going to figure out what you're doing wrong in laning phase to be bad in CS. So all these examples are here. All these future identities are here. I'm not going to give any more time for people to write down their examples. If you are, I'm just going to keep going on, because I do realize now I've been talking for like an hour and 20 minutes. So I want to kind of keep this a little bit short and leave a bit of Q&A at the end. So jumping back to the presentation, basic statistic tracking. So who do you want to be when you play League of Legends? Oh, sorry, we've already done that. Controlling chaos. So this is all about the more variables you control, the more consistent your climbing and improvement will be. So this is all about setting yourself up to control as many variables as you can when you're playing League of Legends. So we'll go through some examples in a moment, but this is all about making sure you're not the player who goes into Champion Select going, oh, today I'm going to try a Mumu jungle, even though I've never played them before. And you're quickly looking up runes, or you're using Mobalytics desktop app to auto-import runes based on the highest win rate. And you realize the runes don't actually work for your current situation. Maybe you had to go armor instead of magic resist or something like that. Or maybe it switched your smite to your flash. So make sure you just understanding that, yes, you can get your runes imported. And yes, you can do it based off highest win rate statistics, but make sure you're actually thinking about it actively. Cool. So going back to the spreadsheet, we've got this spreadsheet called, we've got this place called Controlling the Chaos. So again, we've got a section for your answers, but we'll go through here. So each of these down on column A and column C are the variables in question that I want you to start focusing on. Maybe you don't want to focus on all of these, or maybe you have your own variables that you know you can control. Like maybe you never want to play unless you've had coffee, or maybe you never want to play if you had a bad day at work, or maybe you never want to play if you're tired. You can set up your own variables, but I've got some examples here to get you started. And if you can just focus on these, you're going to set yourself up for success. So the variable first one is position. Okay, right now I play mid/jungle, and I'm okay with playing 2 roles at once, but maybe you want to control this variable even more because you want to become diamond as a mid laner. You go, okay, I'm going to cut out jungle and I'm only going to play mid lane. But then you've got your primary and secondary champion pool. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to one trick mid, but I'm going to queue up secondary as jungle. because I'm going to get jungle sometimes, and I know mid's a very popular role, so I'm just going to play my second best role because I know mid's so popular, I'm always going to get auto-filled. Then you put your primary champion pool. Again, based on what we've already discussed, we're all about controlling variables and make sure we're writing them down. And then your secondary champion pool. And then you've got your autofill. So let's say you get autofill to top 80 carry or support. You have like your other champions that you can rely on. And again, you don't have to put your win rates here. You can just put whatever champion you're most comfortable on. As long as you're sticking to that champion, it's fine. Then you've got your games. So never, this is my rule, and you can have your own rule. Never play more than 3 games in a row. Always take a 5-minute break before I queue up again. Do anything but press queue up again. So sometimes I have a habit of, I'll play 3 games and I want to keep playing because maybe I lost 2 or maybe I lost all 3, but I'm like, I need to get my LP back. No, I'm going to stop queuing up. Maybe I go to my other account, or maybe I just quit playing League for the day. Then you've got time of day, so never play after 11 p.m. For some people, that may be when they play best, but for me personally, it's not. Testing champions, so I'll never test a newer champion on my main account in solo queue until I have at least 20 games played on them. So this is for the people who go, oh, today I'm going to play Lee Sin jungle, and they've played it twice before in their life, and now they're sabotaging their solo queue elo. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, it's literally a lot of people have this problem where they go, oh, I saw this video where this champion counterpicks this. I've never played the counterpick champ, but I'm going to pick it over my comfort pick, even though my comfort pick statistically is going to do better in this matchup every time. I'm going to play the counterpick that I've never played before because I feel like it, or because Mobalytics told me to. So put this variable to however you want to control it. So maybe you're okay with playing new champions without having played any games on them. Or maybe you're okay with playing new champions or champions you have like a 40% win rate on. That's fine, but just make sure that aligns to your goal. So if you want to get to diamond, but you're playing champions that you have a 45% win rate on, you're not going to get to diamond, or it's going to be very hard. It's not going to be impossible, but it's going to be very hard. So again, make sure you're just setting up variables that are realistic for you. So tilt is a good one. If during or after any game where I start getting emotionally impacted about my own or team's performance, I stop playing for at least 2 hours. Usually I take the rest of the day off, or I switch accounts. So this is all about giving yourself alternatives, because maybe you get giga tilted off 2 games on your main account and you get demoted from plat 4 to gold 1, and you're like, fuck, I just lost my platinum status. Instead of going, okay, I'm gonna get fucking plat back today, go, okay, let's take a break. Maybe I'm playing bad. Whether you think you're playing bad or not, it doesn't matter. Take a break, go for a walk, or play on your other account. If you're like, I don't think I'm playing bad, but you still want to play League of Legends, that's fine. Just whatever you do, don't do it on the account that you just got demoted to gold 1 on. Save it for another day. You don't have to get back to platinum today. You can do it tomorrow. When you're less tilted, when you're more fresh, when you've had a better day. You may even wait a week or a month. You go, fuck, I got demoted from plat 4 to gold 1. This is the 3rd time it's happened. Like, why does this keep happening? I'm so unlucky. I go, okay, I'm going to take a month off and just go on my learning account and figure out what I'm doing wrong. I'm going to learn some new champions. I'm going to switch up my playstyle. I'm going to try and do something differently, because if a pattern keeps happening, chances are you're doing something wrong. And then CS per minute, so you can give yourself an average variable, so you know if you go under it or if you go over it, it's a good thing. KDA, average deaths. Cool. I think that's all. So yeah, the more variables you control, the more consistent your climbing and improvement will be. Cool. Yeah, so that's the end of session 1. Sorry I rushed through the end a bit, but I knew that I had been spending like 90 minutes on that session. I know you guys have lives and stuff, so I didn't want to make it too lengthy and boring. And I tried to add some interactive stuff there. So that spreadsheet's fully available to you guys. I'd also highly recommend you, once I've uploaded this, if you have mates that you think will benefit from this, I'm trying to change the world. I'm trying to create less toxic players in the community. If you have mates that you think will benefit from this, please share the video once it's uploaded, and please share the spreadsheet. I'm okay with this getting shared because I want players to be better. I want players in my games to be better players. I want players in your games to be better players. I want the whole League of community to be playing a better game overall, and I want everyone to have goals. Everyone should have goals when they're playing something, when they're doing something, when they're trying to achieve something. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, you can feel free to unmute yourself, or you can just ask it in the chat room. Ideally, keep it specific to what I've talked about today, because there is going to be time for individual account questions when I go through op.gg's and stuff. I'm probably going to answer a lot of those. So just kind of be patient on asking for personal advice. Think more based on what we've talked about today. It's okay if no one has questions either. If you don't have a question but want to... Oh, sorry. Yep.
I was gonna ask. You said a lot about like laning differently, but what about jungling? Don't die! Don't die! Don't die!
Yep.
What about jungling?
Could you be a little bit more specific?
Well, when you said like checking your CS and lane and stuff, like more about clearing jungle, because that's sometimes a bit harder to see what you're doing wrong than when you're CSing in lane.
Yep. So for example, you have low CS and you're a jungler, as an example.
Yeah. Mine's only around 5 or so.
Yeah, so you'd probably want that up to be about 5.5 ideally. So what I would suggest is that's probably not your biggest problem. If you're averaging 5 CS per minute, I would suggest there's probably a bigger problem for you right now that you should focus on. Firstly, but let's say you want to improve. Let's say you want to go from 5 to 5.5 or something, or to 6. First thing I'd do is I'd check other players. So I'd check, let's say you're a jungler, you're playing Zac, and you're like, okay, I currently average 5 CS. First, I'd check what is a good CS per minute. So I'd try and find on League of Graphs, I'd find like 5 Diamond Zac players, or 5 Platinum Zac players, or 5 Challenger Zac players. Remember, the higher rank or the further rank you go away from you, the less realistic the goal's going to be. So generally just keep it to like one tier above you. So if you're a gold player, try and compare yourself to like Plat or Diamond. So I'd do that first, and I'd go, okay, is there an actual problem, or is it in my head? Okay, so the average Zac averages 5.5 to 6 CS. So yeah, I'm averaging a little bit less. I'd then go, okay, I'm gonna watch my first jungle clear through a VOD review. I'd watch it, and this is coming into like how to do your own VOD reviews, but what I'd do is I'd watch my first jungle clear versus a better Zac's jungle clear, and figure out exactly what you're doing wrong on your first clear, because you'll start finding these little micro inconsistencies as a jungler that you're doing that slow each camp clear down by 1 to 3 seconds. I've got a video on it on my YouTube of breaking this down exactly, but I go through a Zac jungler who's really confused about their why their CS per minute is so low. I go through exactly how they're wasting 1 to 3 seconds per camp. And I guarantee you're probably wasting like at least 1 to 2 seconds per jungle camp by either not leashing it to your next camp, by not spacing your abilities and your auto attacks correctly, by not kiting, by not doing 2 camps at once. There's probably a series of problems, but what you'd have to do is actually go through your own VOD review, figure out your first clear, compare it to someone better than you on the same champion, and then see what is going wrong. What are you doing slower or worse than them? And base it just off your first clear, because I guarantee if you do it on your first clear, you're going to do it on every clear after that. You're going to be doing those inefficiencies every time. So use your first clear as the example to focus on, and then figure out what you're doing wrong at each camp versus what the average Diamond Zac jungler is doing, and you'll quickly find out why your CS per minute is lower than theirs. That's a kind of hard thing to do, but it's realistically the only way, particularly if you're confused about or lost of how to improve your CS. Does that help?
Yeah, thanks.
Cool. And again, it's not easy. So you got to understand sometimes improving in League of Legends, it's not just going to be something you can just watch a video about. Sometimes you're actually going to have to put in a bit of work and a bit of effort, and you're going to have to take the time to review your own VOD, review someone who's better than you's VOD, and then compare them. And again, it comes back to your goal. It's like, if you're not willing to do that, that's fine. But just understand that you might not be able to improve as quickly, or you might never improve because you're not willing to put in what it takes. Or maybe you just learn better through grinding or something like that. Yep.
May I ask something? About practicing new champions.
Mm-hmm.
I was just wondering, what's the big downside, if any, to just practicing on the same account you use for your climbing in normals? I mean, sure, it's not the
Sure.
same mentality for as ranked, but I mean, about the point of having a throwaway account, which I get might be quite useful if you reach like platinum or above eventually. But I mean, as far as just the basic practice and getting consistent enough to actually make it
Yep.
viable for ranked.
Yep.
What
That's a
can the
good point.
normals work for that?
Yep, it definitely does. That was actually something I forgot to add. Generally, when I do recommend people, you can play normals. Just understand the environment's not. So generally, when I like to learn champs, and this is a personal preference and something I recommend to. Sorry if I'm talking a bit quickly. Generally, it's something I recommend to the people I'm coaching is I like to learn champions in a really similar environment. If I'm trying to learn to play soccer, but I'm like learning it in a really different environment, I would try and want to learn it in a competitive environment in situations that are very similar to ranked. So what I find in my personal experience is when I play normals, there's a lot of random shit going on, and there's a lot of people playing weird champions, trying out weird things. And yes, this happens in solo queue. Like if you're in bronze, silver, gold, plat, diamond, people play dumb shit. Like you'll see Teemo jungles, you'll see I don't know, Tarek's top. I mean, Tarek top can be viable, but you'll see weird shit, but it'll be less often than in normal games. So the reason I recommend a second account is because at least if you're in solo queue, you're going to have a really competitive environment and you might learn a bit better in that way. And you might actually find that your learning account will climb higher than your climbing account. So basically two benefits over solo queue versus normals, but you can do normals for learning new champs. The two benefits are it's a more similar environment, and two, you might actually find that your new account that you start gets a higher rank than your current account. But yeah, normals completely fine. Even ARAMs, if you're trying to get better at team fighting, ARAMs are a really good practice for that. Like really good for 5v5, understanding that the problem is obviously you can't play the same champion every game. But yeah, I've got nothing against normals. I just forgot to add that. Someone said, what are these? A screenshot. That's just me writing examples. So I just wrote example to showcase that these are the examples in the column. Sorry, I'll put this on the screen so everyone can see. So here I just wrote examples as all these are example identities, and then below you need to write your own. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, exactly. Did I miss any questions here? Anyone else?
Okay.
Hey,
Yeah,
I have a question.
mine is just a quick technical
Go
question.
for it.
How do I get the bootcamp attendee role? Because I missed the beginning of the stream.
That's okay. I can give it to you right now. I can
Ah,
also
good.
give you the upload. Like I'll upload it to Discord. Yeah, you've got the role, so you're fine. I'll put it in. I'll create a new channel called Video Recordings, and I'll put all the sessions there recorded.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Does that work for you?
Yep, of course. Thanks.
Awesome. Blackwing.
Yeah. So, and early on the bootcamp, you were talking about trying to be more of an in-game leader, trying to help your team, like setting up the calls, be there on Dragon first.
Yeah.
When you have a lead. So sometimes what happens to me personally
Yep.
is like 2 out of 10 games I have like me and my were playing and we say like, hey team, let's go Baron, and people just don't hear. Just they ignore what do I do in this situation?
Yeah, so this comes back to something I also said in the boot camp is one, that's always going to fucking happen. You're going to have players that literally will sabotage games because they don't do the right call after you guys win the team fight. So, this happens typically like you win a team fight and then half of your team wants to keep pushing mid and half of your team wants to spam ping and try and do Baron. And what can end up happening is like a split, or maybe sorry, I'm just trying to recall your example. Like some people don't listen. So in that situation, your thought process of like, okay, so let's say the team doesn't listen. You want to go Baron, but your team doesn't listen. Whatever they're doing, you should try and do. If you're the person who's able to comprehend that there's a disconnect between decision making, regardless of if it's fundamentally right, in the context of that game itself, if your whole team wants to push mid and you want to do Baron, just go and push mid because you're going to have more chance of success doing that. But let's say, you've got a really shit team. Maybe you ping Baron because you see two people bot side and no one reacts. You just don't make the play because your team doesn't want to. If your team doesn't, you can't force your team to do the play you want them to do. And it's going to happen in solo queue. You're going to lose games because of it. And it's really frustrating. It's going to happen. There's a saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You can help your team and set them up to win the game. You can set up Dragon. You can make the right calls. But if they don't actually listen and do what you want to do, you can't do anything about that. You can only help them so much. For example, I play muted chat across all my accounts from right now I've only got accounts in, I think, gold to diamond, but I play muted chat in system, so I mute my chat in system settings, so I never see all or ally chat. I only communicate through pings, and I can generally get my team to do things. It also happens that my team will never do things that I ask, and that's okay. I just adapt to the situation. If they don't want to do it, I'll just do the second best option. I'll do the option that they're trying to do. Because even though I think personally, and maybe, I'm a diamond player playing in a silver game, these shit silvers just need to listen to my call. If they don't listen, you just got to do what they want to do. Because you're going to have more success of it working. If no one's doing what you want to do, you're just going to have to play it slightly different. If that makes sense.
Even if what they want to do is completely troll, like for example, you just came out of a fight, you won the fight, and no one resets, and they just want to go for another fight. We just go.
Yeah.
Roll the dice.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So I'd probably, in that individual situation, sometimes you're just so in the tempo and so in the moment that you'll just run into battle with them and die. But yeah, generally what I'd do is just reset and I'd spam ping as I'm resetting. And that's all you can do. If you want to reset, let's say you're on 2.5k gold and you guys want to reset and you know it's a bad fight, just spam ping them to back off and start the recall. Worst comes to worst, you can always cancel the recall and try and help them get out. But sometimes your team will take that as oh shit, this guy actually wants to fight. And then they hard engage after you're just trying to get them out. So what I'd do is I'd commit to the back in that specific situation.
Okay.
And also there's a lot of trolls, right? Every rank you're going to get trolls who just want to keep fighting. It happens in diamond. The only thing that changes as you get higher rank is it happens less. So there's less mistakes made. There's less troll moves done because generally people are playing at a higher standard of the game. So you got to understand that trolls, bad plays, they're all going to happen throughout every rank, and some of them are going to be inevitable. Sometimes your team, after you back and spam ping them, they're going to fucking suicide because they're listening to, 300 beat per minute dubstep, and they're just fucking jacked on caffeine and they just want to keep fighting. Or maybe they're delusional. Maybe they're a meth addict. I don't know. But some people are just going to do crazy shit, and you can't do anything about it. So you just got to let it happen. And accept that that's a natural process of solo queue. As long as you can minimize it through your own actions or try to minimize it, that's the best you can do.
Okay, thank you.
No worries, Black Wing.
What I usually go for is one or two options when it comes to influencing the game as an individual, since it's the only thing you can do.
Yep.
You can only control one of the 10 players.
Yep.
Is well, as a mid laner, it's mostly split pushing. My main source of threat for the classic mid Aram that most teams like to do.
Yep.
Um, because it's like even after once or twice they spam Aram mids from the enemy side. I mean, which is usually ahead when they started doing that.
Yep.
Because we are ahead, we want to finish, and they're right to do so, in a way. Um, After you take one or two, well, even three, at good cases, turrets yourself, eventually they're gonna be forced to split apart and come to counter the split push, which in turn gives you breathing space to start helping your team come back from a feeding laning phase or something like that. But in the cases of inevitable team fights,
Yep.
I find even feeders have their use. What
Yeah.
I mean, use them as bait because one way or the other, they're going to do some damage.
Yeah.
Take advantage of the inevitable death of your teammates. They're gonna focus them. Oh, I killed this guy 10 times. Let's make it 11.
Yeah.
He's gonna focus on doing that because you're like at 2 or 3 deaths if you played properly. This is all given that you played properly yourself
Yeah.
the entire time. What I mean is, if you know he's going to die anyway, use it in a way to set him as a bait to finish off the one you can kill from the enemy team, one or two people even. And suddenly it's a 3v3, where it was like a 5v4, which your
Yeah.
teammate is going to die for the 11th time anyway. And that, 9 times out of 10, when used as a bait, ends up getting us at least 2 or 3 kills, which in turn give us them for Drakes, for split pushing, Baron even. I
Yeah.
mean, that's
It's a
the
good strategy.
comeback way I go about losing side lanes, top and bottom, which we can't control as mid laners as often as we'd like, of course, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
But after that mid game and so on, that's where I see it most effectively changing the game, even after a bad start.
Yeah.
And you see like a 19 to 30 game turn into a 44 to 33 game.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get that far ahead. Sorry if I'm talking a bit a lot, but I was just elaborating.
No, that's okay. You kind of raise a good point. It's like solo queue, anything can happen. Like, the lower rank you are, the longer games go for, which means that the more time you have to come back. So if you're someone who like wants to tilt FF at 15, and you're like diamond or below, I would implore you not to tilt FF 15. Like, literally just play it out, because your team might not have even played a 5v5 yet. Like, if you're trying to FF before your team has even had a fight, try and not do it, because anything could happen. If you're really focused on winning, you may as well just play out the game and see what can happen. Maybe if you're like 0-20 you're, as a team, yeah, sure, FF 15, but just because you're tilted or just because you're 0-4, your team might be doing well. And I'd implore you, kind of like what you were saying, Pass, is like, just see what happens when it gets to mid-late game, because people are going to make mistakes. That 0-10 Yasuo is going to hit his power spike eventually, so even if his power spike is just being a bait, if he gets 2 ults burnt on him, that's a really good outcome for your team, because now that's 2 less ults for you, who's the carry. So yeah, I wouldn't like tilt and not cooperate with my team. I generally, the team that groups first in solo queue wins. Whoever groups first generally suggests they've got better team cohesion and they're more wanting to win the game. So generally, I always recommend, if in doubt, just group. Personally, I don't like split pushing that much, but there are champions that it works with, and the meta does allow for it. I think it's a personal preference, but for me, if I'm in doubt or if my team's not doing very well, I'll just say let's 5v5, and if we like, I won't say this, but I basically, my philosophy is let's 5v5. If we lose, let's just FF. Like if we lose the 5v5, we can FF, but I generally don't like to call FFs before we've actually had a team fight.
It's just that at this low of an elo, I mean, at least for bronze to, let's say, gold, not plat. Plat
Yeah.
gets a bit more straightforward. But I mean, it's just that low of an elo that people don't know how to finish. You can see a drastic change in the power shifts.
Yeah.
Once people start to reach their fifth or sixth item, because it just goes on for that long. Um, what I mean is, I almost most times hate 5v5s. What I mean by that, if it's not like a clear overpowering of the enemy team in a 3v3 or a 4v4, which you know, like if we go for a 5v5 now, it's almost guaranteed we're going to just kill two or three of them and the rest are going to run before the fight even finishes. Unless it's that kind of a lead, I find that um, with TP, which I like to use on almost every game as a mid laner at least. It's like this. I go for a split push when they go five Aram mid to push which we can't stop because like this whole thing of sitting in the other tower, us five versus them five, and then they just kill one or two of our teammates, and we're just sitting ducks waiting for our team to revive without even being able to properly, deep push. Some team composition are just bad at deep push. So I find that instead of bothering with hopefully reversing the lost 5v5, using TP to first make a slow push bot, start push, maybe get the tier 1 turret, which was standing there for like the entire laning phase because your bot lane didn't finish it at all or forgot it even existed. Then you go pick it off, get the gold, TP top, which you already started slow pushing 5 minutes before, and get that turret as well. Get maybe even a tier 2 turret because they started already running towards your bot lane because you were just there. And then you suddenly got two pushed lanes by one person, and they have to inevitably break their Aram on mid. And then all of a sudden you have like 30% of the map which you couldn't access open because of those lost turrets, which gives you access to objectives, Baron, pushing, wards, the things we need to eventually let our team get back into the game. Because it's not like everyone's that bad, it's just if you have a bad start, most people just don't know how to come back in these elos. So I want to at least give my team, if we have like even 30% chance of winning, to give them the room to let that show after 30 or 40 minutes because we had a bad start. And I find that in most cases, if I manage to do that successfully, I mean, and not die, it's most times I don't.
Yeah.
After I got used to it. Again, sorry for elaborating so much, but
It's
it's
alright.
just a bit situational,
Yeah.
and I didn't see anyone saying much of something else. So yeah. But anyway, that's what I mean. It's at least for these elos right now, obviously it's going to become way more team reliant later on in the game. People learn how to stop split pushes and so on and so forth. But that's like not properly done, at least for Platinum Plus, from what I've seen,
Yeah.
because I've seen gameplay of various elos quite a bit, trying to learn, I mean, patterns and so on of solo queue to learn what works and what not. Yeah, I mean, to not get too bla- babbling on this, it just works way better than trying to hopefully save a lost 5v5. And it's given me quite a few more than I expected lost matches, um, ending up in a 10,000 goal difference in the end. So
Oh.
yeah, I hugely support split pushing at least for the lower elos right now. Obviously, you can do that as support maybe as well, but I even do it as jungler for game I like to play. I mean, he has the mobility, he has the DPS. Yeah, it's not the most split pushing champion, but if you have at least 2 or 3 items, you can more than enough pressure the enemies enough to come stop you from taking a free turret, which they don't want, and you want. So yeah, I just do it almost every time. And again, sorry for talking so long.
That's right.
Uh, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. What's your opinion on duo queuing, or do you think that like teaches you that most people will play like your friend plays in that role?
Yeah.
Do you think? Yeah.
I've got a couple ones. I've got nothing against UOQ. Firstly, that's my blanket statement, and then secondly, the next thing is the person you're duoing with actually gonna help you? I duo with a lot of mates, and I love playing with them, and I have a lot of fun. But I know that it's not good for climbing. So when I duo with mates, I don't play on my main account because none of my mates I know are at the standard I play with, and I just accept that. I go, if I want to duo queue, or if my mate wants a couple of games, I'm gonna play with them, but I'm not gonna do it on my main account. So that's my first two. The third one, which is a little bit more niche, is some people think like duo queue's cheating or something. And yeah, I guess you can't duo queue. I think is it in like Masters Plus or something or whatever. If you personally don't have a problem with duo queuing to climb higher, there's nothing wrong with it. Just make sure your duo queue is good and make sure it's aligned to your goals. So if you're trying to climb but you're duo queuing with a player who you've got an average win rate of like anything less than 55% on, I wouldn't duo queue with them, in my opinion. Is that what you were asking for?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah, I was like worried. I was just like kind of worried if I'm like duo queuing with someone at my level, I get used to their play style. Like if I'm playing jungler and they're playing top, I get used to their top leaning.
yeah, true. Yeah, I guess that is an unforeseen issue that can happen. Ideally, you'd
If
probably want to have a lot of your games as duo queue, or you wouldn't want it 50-50% because then you could start developing bad habits where you think your top laner's your mate, but he's not actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I duo queue for a lot of my climbing,
Yep.
as Dylan knows.
Yeah.
I went from silver 2 to gold 2, and me and my friend played jungle top. Most games, it literally took both of us, and I would just get us both fed, and then it'd be easy enough to carry the game. That way, you have somebody, if you can work well with them, it works a bit better, and it's a bit easier to climb. But say it's somebody that you don't have good win rate with, go on another account and play with them.
Yep. Agree.
Yeah.
And it's also, I mean, personally, I never do a queue by choice. Like I completely got it out of my mind when it comes to ranked, at least. I just go for do a queue when it comes to having fun, because we all got friends, obviously. But it's just that they do simple things. It is more effective for climbing. I have found, obviously, because you have 20 more percent control over your team
And
by
communication.
by default. Yeah, I mean it's complete control of 40% of the team. You are two players. Simple math. But the other thing I find is it's better for climbing, but it's worse for improving, which we mostly say is our ultimate goal. It's easy to get used to it and become kinda lazy, not necessarily, but you will become more used to the communication, which you won't be able to get every time in solo rank. That's what I'm trying to avoid, because in an ideal world, you'd be able to say do you all the way up to what was it?
Challenger.
Masters. Yeah,
Ah.
which is where you can't by the game setting play anymore with a duo. But um, eventually one of you if say you keep improving constantly as a player, you know you might fall behind, he might fall behind, and when that happens, as long as you say we're actively looking for a continuous climb with that person, you know, you'll be left with the habit of playing with that mate. And I just find it, you know, why get rid of a habit you don't have to create for yourself in the first place? People are able to reach Challenger by solo queuing all the way there to begin with. Yeah, it's harder, obviously, it will always be harder. I'm not saying it's easier, but it's just that, you know, it's give and take. It's
Yeah.
better for climbing, but it's worse for learning.
Yeah, and
And I
just
just
yeah,
want to avoid that yet.
yeah, base it on your goals and base it on how you want to play the game. As long as you're doing those two things, just yeah, as long as just duo queuing aligns with that, you should be comfortable with it. But yeah, some people say improving's over climbing. I agree with that, but some people want to get to diamond and they don't care how they do it. So that's why there's a whole market that's probably multi-million-dollar for buying boosted accounts, because some people just want to get to diamond and they don't necessarily want to be a better player. They want the vanity of getting to diamond, and so some people will duo queue to climb rather than learn, which is fine. As long as it's your personal goal and you're happy with it, and you don't mind that you're climbing and not necessarily improving, or you're aware of that, I think it's okay. Um, it's not what I personally do, but if you are okay with that, you can do it. Guys, I'm gonna end it here because it's been 2 hours now. But if anyone has any more questions, just feel free to DM me and I can answer them. If you have any more personal or anything like that. Again, I'll upload this hopefully sometime soon. And then you can share it with your mates. Again, the spreadsheet as well. I'll pin that in the resources chat that I'll create. But yeah, thank you all for what. This is my first boot camp as well. So if you guys have any advice that you want to give me privately, like you talked too long about this, or I didn't find this very useful, I'd also appreciate negative or positive feedback, because I want to make these a little bit better than what they are. Because this was my first one, I feel like I did a good job, but probably could have been better. So please feel free to give me any advice. When is the Jungle Masterclass and who is teaching it? I will be doing the Jungle Masterclass, but there's no date set to it. I might do it next weekend, probably this time. Like, so when this session started, I think I'll do the Jungle Masterclass. Because my main roles, I play all roles. So on my Diamond account, my Diamond 3 account, I play autofill. So I basically play all roles at the highest rank I can. I could probably one trick and go higher, but I like to keep across all roles. So I can coach all roles, but for support and top, I'm getting a coach Casper, who's in this Discord, who you guys have probably seen, to do those two roles. But yeah, jungle, mid, and jungle and mid, I'm going to do the masterclasses. Then I might need to find an 80 carry for that masterclass. So if anyone has any suggestions for an 80 carry, I'm more than happy to. I could do a masterclass on 80 carry, but it would probably only be to like a platinum standard. So maybe I'll see how many people want the 80 carry masterclass, and maybe I run it, or maybe I get someone else to do it. Oh, that would be awesome. Mai Tai. Could you send me a DM? We can have a chat. It doesn't really matter what your elo is. To be honest, I don't really mind what your elo is. It's more about the knowledge you're willing to impart. But yeah, that's cool. But yeah, thanks everyone. Please, if you didn't get a chance to ask a question, I will answer it. Just send me a DM. And I'll be more than happy to answer it. If you're interested in coaching from me as well, just send me a DM. I do custom plans as well. There's also a lot of free resources. I'm more than happy to point you in the right direction for free resources if you're looking. If you can't afford coaching, there's a lot of resources out there. YouTube videos, statistics, a lot of shit out there. So you don't have to get paid coaching. But if you are interested, I'm here for it. I can also give you recommendations on other coaches if you if you don't like my coaching style, but you want a paid coaching, I'm more than happy to also direct you in that direction.
When did you say the jungle masterclass was?
I'm probably going to do it next weekend this time. So I'll do it live, but it'll also be recorded. So if you can't make it, you'll still get, I guess, a similar benefit. But yeah, I kind of do it this time because one, I can do it, and two, I think it's kind of okay. It's probably not okay for Americans, hey, because it's like Friday afternoon for you. Yeah, I'll see times. All right. Thanks everyone for chilling out. Guys, feel free to stay in the chat room and chat if you want, but I've got to fly. Thanks all. And yeah, make sure to give me feedback and ask any questions. See ya.
See ya. Good night.
See you,
Too.
Dylan.
See ya. Thank you all.